Welcome everybody to today's webinar about how market intelligence can help consumer finance companies understand, track, and ultimately grow their market share, with insights into the growth strategies of leading retail banks, personal finance management sites, and insurance companies. Today's webinar will be presented by myself, Jessica, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Similarweb, and my colleague, Roxy, Director of Enterprise Sales for North America West, based out in San Francisco. So thank you for being with us today, Roxy.
Thank you, Jess. I'm excited to be joining and sharing insights from the consumer finance category today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
First of all, I just want to apologize if anyone had trouble with getting the link. There was a bug in GoToWebinar over the last couple of days, but we did just send out a link a few minutes ago, so hopefully you got that if you didn't get one earlier, and you obviously have if you're on the line with us today. So as a product marketing manager, I have spoken to many banks and insurance companies globally, learning about their different challenges that they face, and we're very much looking forward to sharing the findings and knowledge that both Roxy and I have gained. Today's agenda will cover a short introduction to Similarweb, including how we collect our data, and some of our existing customers in the finance industry who have already seen the value of market intelligence. Then we'll cover a number of case studies, including how Citibank grew its traffic by over 50% in the past year. We'll deep dive into NerdWallet's key traffic sources and analyze the keyword landscape in the insurance industry. At the end, we'll have time for about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A to answer your questions that you asked throughout today's webinar. The webinar will run for approximately 30 minutes. Please do ask questions throughout it using the question pane that you should see, and we really want to hear from you today. I also just want to mention that there are a couple of handouts attached to this webinar. We have the US Finance Trends and Insights 2017 white paper and The Secret Behind Credit Karma's Success, a digital strategy overview. So please feel free to download them and share with your colleagues as well. Okay, so now we're going to cover a brief overview of Similarweb, its solutions, and data collection methodology. Similarweb is headquartered in Tel Aviv and has offices all around the world, serving our global market. We recently raised $47 million, taking us to a total raised of over $110 million. This will really help us to scale our business even further and continue to develop innovative, best-in-class market intelligence solutions to meet the mass demand that we're seeing. Now, data is the foundation of our entire business, and we take a very unique, multi-dimensional approach to how we collect our data. We leverage hundreds of sources, which we categorize into 4 distinct groups: our global panel data, global ISP data, public data sources, and direct measurement data. So regarding our panel, we have a dedicated product team at Similarweb that is responsible for building and partnering with hundreds of consumer products that make up the panel. Our products are installed on hundreds of millions of global devices, and our global panel covers 226 countries and territories, making it the largest and most diverse panel in the industry. Our global ISP data is used to supplement our insights about digital behavior. We partner with internet service providers from around the world that provide anonymous data almost identical in structure to our panel data. Similar to how search engines like Google and Bing index the web, Similarweb uses an automated technique of capturing and indexing public data from over 1 billion websites and app pages every single month. We then process the data by sorting and structuring the raw data, cleaning and enriching it to make order out of the chaos. Finally, having the ability to measure our estimations against directly measured data is one of the most critical functions in accurate statistical sampling. Similarweb leverages a growing data set of hundreds of thousands of websites and apps that share their directly measured data with us. Similarweb is then able to transform all of those data sources into intelligent estimations across all sites and apps for all geographies. Lastly, we bring the data to life through data visualization. This is critical for delivering Similarweb's market intelligence insights in a way that makes them accessible, digestible, and actionable. Our customers access Similarweb insights via 3 primary means: our SaaS platform, the Similarweb Pro, our custom reports, Similarweb Digital Insights, and Similarweb's API. All of these are designed by experts to get you the right insights at the right time. Similarweb provides insights on every website and app in the world, analyzing at the level of a website, an industry, a keyword, or an app category. We provide traffic data, traffic sources, as well as engagement, audience data, and much, much more. These insights enable our customers to understand, track, and grow their market share. And they do this by benchmarking against competitors and market leaders, optimizing your user acquisition strategies, and continuously monitoring changes in your market position using Similarweb's or your own dashboards by integrating our data via the API. So I think we all understand the importance of market intelligence data, but why Similarweb? Similarweb's unique selling points include its global and multi-platform data, covering over 190 countries in our worldwide view, and with granular country filters for 58 markets across desktop and mobile web and apps. We provide insights at the level of a website, app, industry, and keyword, including traffic, engagement, audience, and conversion data. And finally, with our simple UI and our API, it's very easy to draw out the key insights for your business. Similarweb has many consumer finance customers, including banks and insurance companies, as well as customers from many other industries, such as consulting firms, many big agencies, many large global brands, plus travel customers, retail customers, and the list goes on. And you can just see a few examples of some of our key and valued customers here. So in a moment, I will hand over to Roxy, who will dive into some of the case studies in the consumer finance industry that we're going to analyze today. Within consumer finance, there are many subcategories, including banking, insurance, credit cards, loans, mortgages. And then there's the personal financial management sites, such as Credit Karma, NerdWallet, or CompareTheMarket.com. And these are super interesting because all of these subcategories in the consumer finance industry need to work with the personal financial management sites. And in many markets, it's these sites that are getting the majority of the traffic from industry-related keyword searches. But before we start, just for fun, I want to do a quick poll or a quick quiz. I'm just going to launch that on screen now. And you should all see the question up there. And I want you to all vote, please. The question is, which bank do you think got the most traffic in the US last month? So in August 2017. After you've all voted, I'll share what you thought, and then later on Roxy will actually share with us the true answer. So please, I'll give you a few more seconds to place your vote. It's just to get a feel of how easy it is. Who do you think the digital leader is in the US banking industry? Okay, I'm going to close the poll in a few seconds and share with you the results. Okay, so you should see on screen, this is the results according to what you thought. So we see a total mix there. We can see that the majority of you thought Chase is the bank that got the most web traffic last month, with 43% of you thinking that. And then Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citi, and lastly Capital One. The fewest of you thought that Capital One gets the most web traffic. So Roxy will very kindly share with us the answer a bit later on in the webinar. Just going to hide that poll now and go back to the deck. So now I'm going to hand over to Roxy, who will start by walking us through a case study in the banking industry. So I'm just going to share the presenter with Roxy now. We're in different countries, you see. So there we go. It's over to you, Roxy.
Great, thanks, Jess. Just sharing my screen here now. Can you see it?
Yes, now we see it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, and some very interesting results. And I'm very excited to soon share the answer with you. So the first part of our section is looking specifically at banking and focusing this particular insight on Citi and what we've uncovered there. Now, before we dive deeper into Citi in particular, the first thing really that we need to do is size up the market and understand what the market share looks like over time. Now, starting with these top 8 banks in the US, and we can see which banks we've got up here, and they're all color-coded according to this graph, we can identify that collectively they account for approximately 700 million monthly visits. And this growth and decline fluctuates over time, as we can see here with the numbers on the left and the months at the bottom over here. Now, focusing specifically on Citi, which is in the yellow, we can identify that their traffic growth accounts for over 24 million visits from the period of April 2016 to July 2017. Now, this consequently was the largest growth out of all 8 sites, followed closely behind from Chase with 23 million visits. So we can see Chase's visits here in April were 186 million, and fast forward to July 2017 at 209 million. Now, the last point here is what's interesting between these monthly periods of April to July, we can identify that it tells us a different story about who was the market leader at that time. So in April 2016, we can identify here in the teal color, Wells Fargo was leading the charge with 201 million visits. And fast forward to July 2017, they have declined to 181 million visits, with Chase now the #1 player at 209 million visits. Now, growth is obviously a desired outcome, but what's important to understand is what is contributing to this change, and what is the external and internal factors. Now, drilling deeper into these 3 players, Chase, Citi, and Wells Fargo, we can begin to identify where the digital shifts occurred and what really impacted these growths and decline over time. Now, in this particular period from September 2015 through to August 2017, Wells Fargo, the traffic average is still in Wells Fargo's favor with 198 million visits. And we'll continue to monitor their growth over time. And we can see that they were fairly consistent as a leader from September 2015 to August, but we can begin to see this change through to where we currently are in 2017, and we'll begin to monitor that for the last quarter of 2017 and beginning into 2018. It'll be interesting to see if they begin to claw back. Now, specifically at Chase, we can begin to identify an interesting takeover here with a gradual incline of their traffic, especially going through to the last 3 months of this year so far. And this begins to tell a very interesting story where we can see these opposite trajectories. Now, moving on to Citi in particular, which is our case study today, in the green color here, we can begin to notice a significant contributing factor back in March 2016 with this little inflection over here. And the factor that caused this was Costco announcing that it was ending its relationship with American Express and moving all cardholders to Citi-issued Visa cards. So this was a very significant contributing factor for Citi in particular. And here we can see a clip from the Wall Street Journal from that time back in April 2016. And this data that we see here on the screen further emphasizes that moment of takeover away from American Express, where we can begin to see that consumer shift to Citi more closely. And just to specify here, Citi is in the navy on the screen that you're seeing. Now, as the new Citi branded credit cards were sent out from May to existing cardholders, daily traffic to Citi.com spiked at 3.2 million visits on a single day. And also beginning around this period of May 2016, traffic started arriving at Citi.com from their internal credit card portal, which is called citicards.com. Now, this steadily increased until June, where specifically on June 20th, Costco announced that they were no longer accepting American Express credit cards. After which, in Citi's favor, the number of referrals tripled to approximately 925,000 per day in June, and again over 1.8 million per day in July and August. Now, for Amex, this maybe didn't affect their bottom line. However, this is a significant impact for Citi and really begins to emphasize the shift of the marketplace and how integral partnerships and referral traffic are for brands like Citi and American Express. And speaking of these referral partnerships, how reliant are these key players on referral traffic? Now, at the top here, we're looking at the channel mix of Wells Fargo, Chase, Citi, and I've also added an Ally to spice things up a bit. Ally is an online-only bank in the US with very competitive rates and no physical branches. So looking at this graph, we can see that aside from direct traffic, which is the top channel, the other top two channels of traffic, and this is for the period of 2017, are organic search and referrals. Now, drilling down even further, we can begin to quantify that in terms of numbers, this box over here. And it's over 190 million visits from January to August 2017. So a sizable amount of traffic coming from referrals. Now, with Similarweb, you can view every single one of these domains in our platform. However, for the purpose of this session, we decided to take a further look at what percentage of referral traffic comes from NerdWallet in particular. And NerdWallet, which for most of you know, obviously here in the US, is a top brand in this personal consumer finance category. And we can see that NerdWallet account for 1.15 million visits since January 2017, which seems like a sizable amount, but how do we know if that's significant or not? And also, how do we know of this group traffic share that we can see, are each player getting the most amount of traffic that they could possibly get from the likes of NerdWallet? Now, we'll begin to size that up in our next section in the consumer finance category. But first, let's answer the poll. I'm going to just shift gears out of this presentation and go directly to answer the question of which US bank got the most amount of traffic for the month of August 2017. And here we can see in our finance category for the month of August, it is Chase. And I believe that Chase was the number one answer. So well done to all of those who are feeling fresh and on form this morning, and to those of you that got that right.
Yeah, 43% thought it was Chase. So well done to you. We did it earlier in our European webinar with European banks, and everyone thought the exact opposite to what the answer was. So sometimes there's a twist. Thank you so much, Roxy. That was a super interesting case study.
Pleasure.
Citi and the other leading retail banks in the US. So what's amazing is the impact that these personal financial management sites can have on retail banks and other consumer finance players. And it is so critical for these market leaders in the different subcategories to work very closely with NerdWallet, Credit Karma, etc. So now I will hand back over to you, Roxy, and you can talk us through how these types of sites grow their traffic, creating lots of leads for the other consumer finance subcategories.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Great. So moving our focus now to NerdWallet. NerdWallet are the fourth biggest competitor in this personal financial management category in the US. Now, this category is dominated by Credit Karma in the blue, who own over 40% of the traffic share in the category. Now, in the gray, there's other key players like Mint, Bankrate, and Lower My Bills, who are also significant competitors in this relatively new finance category. Now, continuing our focus on NerdWallet, however, and beginning to look at their high-level traffic throughout the last 24 months, NerdWallet have been able to grow in traffic and maintain its market share with no easy feat in this fiercely competitive landscape. Their most significant source of their growth is organic search, and we'll look specifically into their strategy behind this growth. Now, taking a holistic view, one of the key components with Similarweb is that you can identify the marketing mix for any website in the world, which is what we are viewing here for NerdWallet in the orange and Credit Karma in the blue. When dealing with a giant such as Credit Karma, NerdWallet decided to take a different approach and focus on organic search. And we can see here that NerdWallet gets 79% of their overall traffic from organic search, so a significant volume. Now, in fact, even though Credit Karma is 5 times bigger in total traffic, NerdWallet is getting 20% more traffic in real terms from SEO. Now, to quantify that even further, NerdWallet got 5 million visits from SEO versus Credit Karma, which got 4 million visits in the analyzed time period. So the question is, how do they do that, and what is their winning strategy? And it's really about focusing on answering the right questions at the right time. They've managed to win such an enormous amount of organic traffic by capitalizing on how users search for advice for their day-to-day financial matters. So clarifying that, NerdWallet's digital strategy is the fact that they are leaders in providing content that both asks and answers consumer questions in a clear, relatable way. So terms such as best, what, and how dominate the key terms that are driving traffic to the site. Now, in the consumer finance vertical, people are looking for things such as what is the best credit card or what is the best student bank account, and don't have the same brand journey that they would for retail, for example, where they already know the brand that they are looking for. And this is really what NerdWallet are capitalizing on. So on the left here, we can see that keywords including the word best, for example, is included in over 25% of all search keywords. And on the right, we can identify that credit card is included in over 30%. So 1 in every 4 search visits are related to credit card. And by targeting those keywords, especially at the right time, so for example, before the tax period begins, and delivering this targeted content effectively, this strategy means that they are delivering both significant value to the consumer. And we can see that by analyzing their most popular content, which we can do in the Pro now. So we'll shift gears a little bit and dive directly into NerdWallet's site live. And I'm just going to call out a couple things that we can see here. So on the left, we're now in Similarweb Pro, and we are analyzing nerdwallet.com for the period of August 2016 to August 2017. And we're looking at what is their most popular pages. Now, as we saw on the slide before, we can identify that aside from NerdWallet's homepage domain, nerdwallet.com, the top most performing page is /the best credit cards. Now we can go directly into that landing page, and this begins to give us a feel for what that consumer experience is like. We can see that they're incorporating the keyword best into the headline. We can identify how they are structuring their website, what visuals they're using, and also what key bank refers at the top of their recommendation list. Now, this strategy of content optimization on their landing page works very well in their favor, and coupled with the subsections where they've incorporated these keywords into the headlines itself. So we can see here, for example, the keywords best, get, and also how to is a continuous theme through every subsection on the NerdWallet site. Now, what's important to begin to benchmark this is their largest competitor, Credit Karma. If we segue directly to Credit Karma's site, we can see here it's a very different look and feel. Now, Credit Karma are doing the same thing in terms of aggregating and offering recommendations, but we can see that their strategy is not to include those specific keywords like best or how to, except in this top one here where we see the keyword best credit cards. So it's a different strategy, and it's working very well in NerdWallet's favor in winning the lion's share of that organic traffic. Now, going back to the popular pages for NerdWallet, one of the interesting things here that we can do, and especially helpful if you're a marketer in the consumer finance category, is you can click on this filter here and analyze what pages are trending. Now, this will begin to give you insight into what pages experienced the largest increase in the last calendar month. So just to clarify, this would be the last 2 calendar months. So the change from July 2017 to August 2017. And we can identify here some new themes that are coming up. So for example, how to invest in your 20s, the best balanced transfer credit cards, auto insurance reviews, and 6 things to do when you win the Powerball jackpot, which obviously is would be a fantastic article to land on if you did actually win the jackpot.
Does it teach you how to win the jackpot, or just what to do once you've done it?
Let's check it. I mean, if it teaches you how to, that would be fantastic. Well, as it says here, after all, you never know, but actually we do know some key tricks to practicing your poker face and reviewing your prenup. So I think that this is brilliant. And I also think that this brings up the point that they are offering content ideas away from the particular norm of what people are searching for, like opening a bank account or applying for a credit card. But this breaks it up and again gives them a different content theme and content strategy to capitalize on. So in their general marketing calendar, where they tweet about this, when they post or promote content on Facebook, this again gives you insight into what else they're doing. And as we can see here, it's clearly working well for them in terms of the growth that they've seen. Now, what's also interesting to note is not only what's trending and how NerdWallet are acquiring traffic, which we saw is largely through organic search, but who NerdWallet are sending this traffic to. Now we can identify on the left-hand side here what that outgoing traffic is. And we can just very quickly segue here to the outgoing links and identify what partners NerdWallet are sending the most amount of traffic to. So looking at the same period from August 2016 to August 2017, we can see here that it's the likes of Bluebird, so an alternative to banking, and Ally, followed next by the top bank, which is Chase. Now, interesting to note that we don't see Wells Fargo here at all in their top 20. So it begins to give insight if you're a marketer or even if you're an investor and you're wanting to identify where that traffic is going and what that consumer journey looks like. This is giving you visibility into the top referring partners that NerdWallet are sending traffic to. Now, closing the loop that and on the point that we made earlier about referral traffic for Chase and their reliance on NerdWallet, it's essentially one continuous loop of interconnectedness. Now we can essentially start our workflow over and begin to identify who NerdWallet are relying on traffic from themselves. Now this is a different perspective on the market and essentially another view on the consumer finance spectrum that emphasizes the point that content, especially winning content, offers for consumers and a marketing strategy to boost is really king to cut through the noise and be recommended. And here we can see just over 1,500 domains that are all sending traffic to NerdWallet in the period of the last 12, 13 months. And we can identify that that is USA Today, Feedly, CNN, MarketWatch, and Lifehacker as the top 5. Now, in addition to seeing these actual publishers and domains, and of course you can then click on any one of these to look at their marketing strategy, we can see what that growth is. So USA Today grew in their traffic from just over 100% to NerdWallet. And anywhere where you see green means that it's a significant boost of traffic that they've seen. For example, here, just under 700% from US News based on the period change from July to August. Back to you, Jess.
Thank you so much, Roxy. Another very interesting case study indeed. Just a reminder to everyone at this point, if you have got any questions for us and have not had a chance to ask yet, you can continue to ask through that question pane and we will get to it at the Q&A section at the end, just after our case study on the insurance market. Before we move on to the insurance industry, let's just do another quick poll, which will nicely segue us into that. So I'm just going to launch this poll on your screens now. The question now is, which US insurance company do you think gets the most traffic from searches for the top insurance-related keywords? So when people search for a variety of keywords related to insurance, is that traffic going to Allstate, or Geico, or State Farm, Progressive, or Liberty Mutual? Obviously, I'm sure they're all getting traffic from them, but who do you think is getting the most traffic I'll give you a few more moments to vote again, and then once again, Roxy will very kindly reveal the answer to us later on in the webinar. So please do vote. I can see most of you have voted now. I'm just going to close the poll and share the results. Okay, so 50% of you, the majority of you, thought it is Geico. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. Am I, Roxy?
I'm not too sure. I'm not a native scientist.
And none of you think it's Liberty Mutual. So, and then a few of you think it is the other players, Allstate, State Farm, and Progressive. So I will hide that now and hand back over to Roxy, who will walk us through a nice case study of the insurance industry and reveal that answer to us.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess.
That should be hidden, or is it still? Are you still seeing that poll on screen?
I'm not seeing the poll on screen, but not yet seeing the presentation.
One moment.
Oh, there we go. Can you see my screen now?
I'm still seeing the poll. Let me just hide it. Now, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, now I see the presentation. Perfect.
Yep. Okay, great. All right, let me put this back into present mode. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see the results from the answer on the poll that we just did. Great, so moving finally on to insurance. We've looked at banking, we've looked at personal consumer finance with NerdWallet, and now we're looking at insurance. Now this slide essentially gives us a good holistic snapshot of insurance in the US. We can see on the top right here, the top insurance sites by state. So in the navy is Progressive, in the blue, the darker blue is State Farm, and in the orange we can see Gecko. I'm going to say it's Gecko because I think I see a gecko in their logo, so apologies, I hope I'm not offending anyone. But basically with Similarweb's data, we can drill down to top 15 states and begin to shed light on what that top insurance companies are. Now on the left-hand side, we're focusing on these top 3 players. And what we're viewing here is the traffic source split from the period of July 2016 to June 2017. Now, what we identified was while Progressive received double the amount of car insurance traffic as State Farm, the latter actually received double the amount of traffic from rental insurance. Now, we'll dig deeper into that. Before we do, this trend here begins to shine a spotlight on where the spikes are for Progressive. So specifically in the period of December to January 2017, a huge inflection point. And aside from this, what we also identified was that insurance sites generally as a whole received 13% more traffic in August than on the average month. So it really increases as we start to get from spring into summer. And finally, another piece of our research identified that 55% of non-branded searches are related to car insurance, rental insurance, and home insurance. And we're going to dig deeper into the user behaviors and trend around these keywords and who else is taking share on these top insurance products. Let me just segue directly out of this and begin here with looking at the marketing mix. So firstly, we are benchmarking State Farm, Progressive, and Allstate against each other, and we're analyzing this data from 2017, so beginning from January 2017, specifically in the United States. And we can see here, based on the percentages that we looked at before, what that split of traffic is across the sources, but we can also identify that number split. So, for example, State Farm are leading the charge in organic search, their paid acquisition strategies, referrals, and direct, where Progressive are leading the charge in the traffic they receive from email. Now, it's fairly neck on neck on referrals, and it's going to be interesting for us to identify who these players partner with to receive traffic. But before we do that, let's analyze what their quality of traffic is from their referral channels. So just to specify, referrals are either an affiliate or a content partner, and these are where we've identified a link between these two sites. So looking at the period in 2017, we can see that State Farm get the most of traffic from referrals. And we can identify here what their quality of traffic is like. So although State Farm get the most amount of volume from referrals, they actually have the highest bounce rate. So that means that when a user comes to State Farm, they are quick to leave the site from the referrals that State Farm are working with. However, we can identify here that Allstate have got the lowest bounce rate. So approximately 30% in January, and consistently around the same with 30% in August. And this begins to tell us that their quality of engagement is high. Now, before we circle back to analyzing the non-branded keywords, we can give you a quick view into the battlefield of all of these referring partners. So firstly, for desktop, we can see here, as we saw before, that State Farm get the most amount of traffic from referrals. We can see this growth and competing traffic strategies here between these top three players. And then as we scroll down in the Pro, we can identify all of those domains that are sending traffic. So there's just under 4,000 of them. And this is specifically just for the period of 2017. So we can see an internal site here, Allstate Rewards, Wells Fargo, which is the first bank that we've seen that is sending traffic to these consumer insurance companies. And as we scroll down, we spot NerdWallet here at number 14. Now, NerdWallet are sending 1.84% of this overall number over here, which is just over 11 million visits. And of that 1.84%, we can see that State Farm win the lion's share of that. So this view is a very helpful view for marketers at insurance companies because it begins to show you, A, who your competitors are working with, and B, if you are losing or winning traffic from these referring partners. If you were from Allstate or Progressive, for example, and you were working with NerdWallet, you may have thought that you were receiving a lot more traffic than what you actually are. And this begins to give you visibility into the opportunities of focus for your referral strategy. Great, now moving on from referrals, let's dig into the search channel. And this is where we're going to begin to start to identify what those top performing products are. Now, briefly calling out what you're seeing here, we can identify the overview of visits. Now, this is from desktop. We do have mobile web as well. But for visits alone, we can see what those percentages of traffic for these top players, as well as what that split is between branded and non-branded, and the split between organic and paid. And we can see State Farm win in terms of the most amount of traffic that they receive from paid optimization. Now, looking at the specific keywords, we can identify here all of the search terms that are driving traffic to these three brands in the period of 2017, and a whopping just under 60,000 search terms. Now, we want to filter this to non-branded. I'm going to just select this filter here and apply that. And what that's going to do is take out the branded keywords. And we do that by essentially eliminating the keywords that we see in the URL. So State Farm, Progressive, and Allstate. Now, this is where we've trimmed down on our group, so we can see there's 40,000 keywords. But for insurance specifically, what's great about this is that we see all of the top performing products: renters insurance, car insurance, home owner insurance, etc. And we can see the percentage of group traffic that these keywords are sending traffic to, as well as the battlefield. Now, there's some fierce competition going on in here, especially on the likes of car insurance and auto insurance, between Allstate in the orange and in the blue, or the teal, sorry, Progressive. Now, what we want to begin to answer is, who else is receiving traffic from these non-branded keywords? And this will begin, as a marketer, open up your ecosystem to look outside of your direct competitors and analyze who else is winning traffic from these keywords. Now, we can begin to just tick all of these different products that we want to look at. So car insurance, auto insurance, life, health, home insurance, I saw a new one here, motorcycle, renters, and we'll look for one more, cheap car insurance. Now, cheap car insurance, interestingly, we can see based on this, that Progressive have really focused their efforts on focusing specifically on the cheap car insurance market. So once we've ticked a few keywords, and I'm just going to, I'll add in another one here, we can essentially create a keyword group. So very easily, we can just look at the top US products. And I'll add in here insurance products just to be clear, and we hit save. Now this is going to essentially create a keyword group for us to analyze. So we're now reverse engineering what we've just done. So instead of starting with the top 3 domains, we're starting with the list of keywords that I selected. And here we can see, as we scroll down, firstly, the answer to our poll, which is that the top insurance company that receives the most amount of traffic from non-branded keywords is State Farm. So State Farm here at the top getting 13.76% of that overall traffic. Now, the point here is obviously that we identified that the top insurance companies are receiving traffic, but we can see that we were looking just at State Farm, Allstate, and Progressive before. However, healthcare.gov is at number 2, and you'd be able to look into their strategy and identify what their most popular content is. And as we scroll down, we can begin to see who else is winning traffic from those keywords. And closing the loop here on the interconnectedness of the consumer finance industry, we can see NerdWallet at number 15 with 1.25% of traffic share that they're getting from those keywords, a growth of 73%, so very, very healthy. And here we can see the top destination URL that they're driving consumers to when they click on those keywords. And we can go directly to look at that landing page here. Best cheap car insurance in Florida for 2017. So closing the loop on the fact that you can begin to expand your competitor intelligence visibility to look outside of your direct competitors and reverse engineer who else is receiving traffic from these top insurance products in the United States.
Great. Thank you so much, Roxy.
Thanks, Jess.
That was wonderful. So just before we go into the Q&A, just want to remind you, please feel free to download the handouts from the webinar that I mentioned at the beginning. We've got 2 nice reports there. And now we should have a few minutes for Q&A before the webinar comes to a close. So the first question we have here, I think, relates to what you were presenting slightly earlier, Roxy, is what does it mean branded versus non-branded search keywords?
Sure, great question. So let me go directly into, I'll go directly into State Farm, for example. And essentially, our non-branded and branded is based on the URL. So if we're looking just at branded keywords, we'll be able to, we analyze keywords that are contained in the domain, so State Farm. So we can see all of these branded keywords. However, when we're looking at non-branded, so identifying user trends that are not tied to a brand, and we apply that filter, this will remove any mention of the actual brand name and deliver a result of all keywords that do not contain any branded keywords.
Great, thank you. The next question we have here asks, in addition to access to the Similarweb data, do you provide any additional services in the subscription? So yes, if you become a Similarweb customer and subscribe to our data, then you will get a dedicated customer success manager, and they are on hand to all of our paying customers to help you in any way you need, whether that's to discover a new type of analysis with our data that maybe you hadn't thought of before, whether that's to support you in creating new dashboards. We didn't really have time to dive into our custom dashboards today, but we do have the ability within Similarweb to create your own dashboards of just the websites and metrics that you care about that you can monitor daily or weekly. So they can help you set up new dashboards. They can answer any of your product related questions, data related questions, etc. So that is a great service we offer. Roxy, I don't know if you have something to add, or
yeah, definitely, and I can just quickly segue here. So in our drop down in the Pro, we do have, as Jess mentioned, the ability to create custom dashboards. Now this is particularly helpful for analyzing creating one consolidated view of where you can keep an eye on metrics that are most important to you. Additionally, also very helpful if you are part of a global marketing team. So for example, I've created a dashboard here called Finance Channel Split, and this is just looking at the overview of the overall finance vertical, looking at data from June to August 2017 and what those top performing channels are for the UK. And then also side by side, I've run the same analysis but for the US. And interestingly, when you're starting to compare these two different markets, you can see the different consumer journeys, where the US is more heavily reliant on direct traffic. The UK focuses more on referrals and organic search and paid search as their top channels. And it's very easy to build your own dashboards. You create and choose any one of your metrics, and essentially you can have as many dashboards as you like and monitor this on a daily or weekly basis.
That's great. I'm glad we got a chance to show that, actually. And as we said earlier, also, we have our own dashboards, as you can see there, but some people like to analyze in mass volume our data and sometimes integrate Similarweb data with other data sources. So there is also the option to use our API to pull that straight into your own dashboards, whether that's in Excel or Tableau or some other system. Probably got time just for one more question, I think, so I'm sorry if we haven't got to everyone's questions today. I think you've kind of answered it there actually in a way, but one of the questions was that we focused a lot on US examples, and this this was our webinar for the US time zone, but we may have other people on the line from different countries. So they want to know, are we able to do similar analyses into other markets? And they particularly asked about Asia. So
yeah, absolutely. No, that raises a really fantastic point. So a couple of things. At a high level in industry analysis, you're able to look at the top performing sites in over 200 categories that we have. So looking specifically at the finance vertical, we can see that this list has delivered the results of the top 10,000 domains in finance in the US. Now, when I click on this drop down, we can see all of the other country data sets that we have, which is very expansive. Now, for Asia in particular, we can put in a market like Singapore, for example, and that will essentially refilter the data and instantly return the top sites in this country in the finance vertical. So this is particularly helpful for localized marketing teams when you're wanting to cut out the global traffic and you just want to analyze the top performing players in the US. And similarly, you'd be able to do that in terms of looking at their localized keywords, in terms of looking at localized keyword analysis. You'll be able to do that as well for all of the different countries that we have, which is very extensive across the Asian markets.
Thank you, Roxy. I think that's all we have time for today. So I am sorry if we didn't get to your question, but we will make sure that you speak to one of our product consultants who can follow up with you with any open questions. Please do contact us if you would like to have a more tailored demo of Similarweb and dive into some of the sites maybe in your niche market or anything that we didn't manage to get to today. And I want to thank Roxy again for your time and your wonderful presentation today, and thank everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you, everyone.